Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of From Salem with Love of 2022.
Yay.
I almost said 21 again.
I've been doing it all week.
It's going to take a while.
It will.
Maybe by July I'll have it figured out. Anyway, well, thank you, everyone, for all the holiday love on our last episode. We're excited to be here for another episode, and you guys sent in a bunch of amazing questions for us to answer, so we're going to start working on some of those, which is very exciting. But before we get to that, what are you wearing today?
So I am wearing my bubble sweater from Stephen West. It's the first sweater I actually played with modifying, so I made like longer sleeves with thumb holes, and there's a little kangaroo pocket on there.
Yay!
I don't know.
And what are the yarns that you're using?
I think it's all Harrisville.
Yeah.
I think Harrisville Nightshades. Then I had, no, actually this one isn't, but I don't remember. This one's Flywheel, and it's all in DK.
Yeah.
And then this one I got when I was in Maine at one point, so.
Nice.
And then the hat that I'm wearing is the Cable O hat by Jessica Grove. It goes with my glasses, so.
And it's the Malabrigo Rios.
Yes.
Nice.
And what are you wearing?
I'm wearing my Nevasca Shawl again. This is one of my designs, and this is in Harrisville Daylights 3 skeins. And it's just like a really big squishy shawl, so for this time of year, I really like the big squishy shawls. But one of the questions that we got from last episode was what I was knitting, and what's on my needles is a Nightshades version of the same shawl, so you can actually see the detail really well in this one. So hopefully that'll actually be done soon, because I'm doing a really bad job of doing that. So what are you knitting?
Oh, I am actually currently doing a sample knit for
PNW Knits,
yes,
right?
Sorry. For PNW Knits, it's her new Sitka Spruce single ply. It's going to be out on January 21st. Hold on, as I pull out everything out of my little bag here. And I'm knitting it in...
Oh, it's so good!
La Bien-Aimee, and the colors Grello and Winterfell.
Yeah, and that's the DK, right?
Yeah.
Get up right in there. Check out these baubles.
Yeah,
so
actually
cute.
The baubles I've been playing with, so I tend to be a little OCD with certain things, so I just keep on playing with different ways of doing it. So currently found the way that I like to do it on there, and it's just going up quite quickly.
It's so cute, right? And is this your first time doing a Latvian braid?
Yep.
So this is a Latvian braid.
And actually, the corrugated ribbing as well was the first time I had done that too.
Cute. Well, it looks great.
Yeah.
Look at those floats. Sexy. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I actually have a little announcement that I wanted to make about Chase the Chill. For those of you who don't know what Chase the Chill is, it's our annual winter charity drive where we collect hand knit, hats, cowls, scarves, mittens, sort of winter, warmer stuff, and socks. Not hand knit socks necessarily, but just packs of white socks. And this all goes to our local homeless shelter, which is called LifeBridge. And socks are actually a huge problem in general, so they're always accepting donations for those. But what we're doing different because of COVID, which we've already had to do last year, is rather than having our usual event where we all meet at LifeBridge and hang up all the gifts that we're leaving in front of the building for the residents right before lunchtime, we're actually just going to do a walk-in donation privately so that we're reducing COVID exposure. So if you are donating this year, rather than meeting us at LifeBridge on the 15th, I'll be collecting donations at the shop through the 16th and then just dropping them off privately and safely so that we're not risking exposing the residents. So that's through the 16th. You can either mail it or drop it off. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And so now we're actually going to start answering some of your questions, which we really appreciate. But one thing that I wanted to go full circle on is the pronunciation of Line magazine. One of our listeners, Lynn, actually emailed them to confirm, and because they are in Finland, they do pronounce it Line, which means wave, but they are aware of the double meaning, of course, with French and Len. So the official answer is Line, but they said that they are happy for for folks to play with the meaning like that. So we got a question from Lisa from the Knitting by the Sea podcast, and she asked how you and I met. So, do you want to tell the story?
Okay, well, background of the story is that I had, about maybe 2-3 years ago, recently gotten back into crocheting, and even more back than that, my fiance Jeremy had walked by Anna's store on one night when he was just hanging out in Salem, and he took a picture of, I guess it was Knit Night, and sent it to me, and then he was also making fun of me at the same time, but that's irrelevant. But he sent that picture.
He told me that he was being supportive and telling you to come hang out with us.
He was making fun of me at the same time.
Jeremy.
Yeah, I know. So he sent that picture, and then he was like, kind of like, oh, you should stop in there at some point, because until then, I was only kind of using acrylic yarn, just because I was starting and it was cheaper, and I went and started using it. But I finally went into the store, and little nervous me, anyone who's ever met me outside of this podcast knows that I am so quiet. Fainting goat, remember a couple episodes back? Yep, that was me. So I was looking in the store around, and then Anna introduced herself, and then as we were looking, the number one quote that I have always had from Anna, and that I will always use, is,
oh my God,
if you have problems picking out colors, I have opinions.
I do say that.
That last section of it, I was like, oh, I didn't realize how true that was, but it was good. So
I do say that to
you
people.
do. And then fast forward, probably like 6-7 months, because I kept on kind of coming in, and you were always were encouraging me to kind of come to Knit Night, which I, again, nervous wreck when it comes to meeting new people. So didn't do that, but I came in, and then it was the yarn crawl time.
And that was the yarn crawl of, I think it was like 2018, right?
Yeah,
like it was 2018.
Yeah, around there. It was close to then. If it wasn't 2018, it was 2019. I'm not sure, because it was, I don't know what time it was, but neither here nor there on that. But yes.
No, it was 2018. But yeah, but I invited you to design the official crochet shawl for the yarn crawl.
Yeah, so then I did that, and then we started texting and talking, and we got closer, and then kept on getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and then here we are.
Right? Yeah, it's sort of funny to think that we weren't friends at one point, but I remember when it was you and Jeremy coming in together to look at yarn, and you two were so cute, and every time you came in, I was so happy, so yay.
What was the other question that we had?
Okay, so we have lots of questions, but the other one that we're going to answer today is from Mary, and she got one of our Winter Solstice Fiber Witch boxes, and she was asking for pattern suggestions for one skein of sock yarn that is not socks, because she's a little tired of knitting socks. And so we do have some suggestions, but one of the things I want to talk about as well is the difference between sock yarn and fingering weight yarn, because that tends to be something that I feel like a lot of people are unclear on.
I was.
Yeah. And so sock yarn and fingering weight yarn, they're actually the same weight of yarn, but the difference has to do usually more with the spin and the fiber content. You know, you can knit a fingering weight shawl in a sock yarn, but you probably don't want to knit socks in just a regular fingering weight. So what's the difference, right? The thickness of the yarn is pretty much the same. Some yarns are a little bit fluffier, but I have 3 examples here, and I think you grabbed some too, right? And so this that I have here is a Zauberball Crazy, a skein of Zauberball Crazy, and this color, since I should tell people, is called Malabrigo, maybe, in color number 2334. It's a German yarn, but this is a true sock yarn. And so this is 100 grams of fingering weight yarn, and that is a composition of wool and nylon. And what the nylon does is it gives the wool extra strength, so that when you're doing something like knitting socks, it's not going to wear through as quickly, right? And sock yarns also tend to have a tighter spin, because a tighter spin makes it a little bit stronger. And so another example that I have here is Malabrigo Sock. And this one is 100% merino. This one does not have the nylon content that you typically see in a sock yarn, but you can see that it's a pretty tight twist, and so that's going to make it a little bit stronger than something with a looser twist or a single ply, which is the last one that I wanted to show off. So this is Aimee Merino singles, right? And so this is a fingering weight, but you can see that there is no ply to the yarn. So this is very, very soft, and it's really, really delicate. So this is not a sock yarn because you'd wear through it really quickly. And so if you get a skein of sock yarn, you can knit something that was designed for, you know, like a single ply or a different kind of fingering weight. It's just you're probably going to have a fabric that's a little crisper, you know, a little less lofty, but you can do that. And you had some that you'd picked to show as well, right?
So I will start with my Aimee one that I had picked out.
Right, and that's a sock yarn because that's got a nice tight twist. Yeah.
And it's the grello color that I was using in my cowl because I've since become obsessed.
Yeah, and this has merino and nylon in it, and you can see, look how tight the twist is on those plies. And obviously that's an awesome color.
And then we did this one from Yarn Less Traveled, and this has nylon in it, so it's also
that's her 757 sock.
And then the color is
Winslow. Yeah, so that also has a nylon in it, and you can see the twist on it is nice and tight.
And then I have this actually going with the story of when we first met, was the colorway of the first yarn I ever got here from Anna's store.
Aww.
It is Archangel.
Malabrigo Sock, yeah.
And right after I had gotten the skein, I had spun it in the store, and then I made Jeremy go and take pictures of me in front of the lighthouse right outside the store, and then quickly tagged Anna in it because, you know, I'm super awkward, but I can tag anyone on social media and talk to them. So, and then the last one I had picked was...
Oh, the Mechita, yeah.
Yeah. And I just loved all the pretty greens. And
yeah, so that one's also a single ply, so it's comparable to the Aimee Merino single, so you can see both of those, right? It's just a single ply, so it's going to be really soft but delicate. So hopefully that gives people a little bit more information as far as the distinction between the yarns there. But so we each picked 3 patterns that people can knit with 1 skein of sock yarn. So what patterns did you pick?
So I picked, my first one that I had picked was Sockhead. It uses about 155 to 415 yards of yarn, so almost any of the sock ones will be able to make that hat. I think that's really cute. It's a slouchy style hat. I love those.
Yeah, and we can drop in a picture right now. Yeah.
All right. The other one that I picked, it is Don't Touch Your Face. I thought the name was hilarious, so I had to mention it on here. And that is a cowl, and it has some really cool little detail up and through it. And it uses about 437 yards of fingering or sock weight.
Yeah, we can pop in a picture.
And then the last one I picked was Close to You, and that is a shawl that you can make, and that uses about 418 yards of yarn, and we can pop in a picture here.
That is actually one of the patterns that Jennifer from Lucky Cat Yarns used for one of the shawls that was knit for my grandma.
Oh.
So that's a really cute pattern.
Yeah.
And I'll actually pop in an adorable picture of my grandmother wearing it just because my grandma's awesome. So that's my adorable 93-year-old grandma. And if anyone wants to knit more shawls for her, I do plan on going back at the end of February. So wear your masks, folks. Be careful with COVID, please.
Please.
Get vaccinated. Anyway. So the patterns that I picked is, I picked a shawl by Locatelli called Venezia. She originally designed that for a single ply fingering weight, but again, you can use your skein of sock yarn, and it's a really cute shawl, and I'll pop in a picture. The other one that I picked, this one's kind of a classic. This one was published several years ago, and it's a great pattern for if you just have a super variegated skein of sock yarn. And this is the kind of pattern that I really like to recommend for skeins of sock yarn, because it's the kind of pattern that's knit on the bias. It starts on one tip and it has a really cute jagged edge, but basically you can bind off after any of the teeth, and so you can just use up all the yardage that you have regardless of what size of skein it is. And so any pattern that is knit on the bias like that with a repeat is one that you can just kind of go until you run out. So this is Hitchhiker. And then the last one that I threw in there are the Bodleian fingerless mitts. Those are designed by me, and it's just, you know, instead of socks, I guess it's hand socks. That's kind of a weird thing to say. At least you don't have to turn a heel. And so that's a good one for some sock yarn. And I designed it with 2 different gauges. So if you want something that's sort of like, you know, tight fitting, or if you prefer kind of like the baggier look, you know, those are both included in there. And we'll go ahead and put in a photo right now. And now we can transition from fingerless mitts to hand stretches with Jacob.
Yeah, I figured that a lot of the fingering yarns and sock yarns, you're using smaller sized needles sometimes. Even in general with knitting, anyways, your hands tend to cramp up and
I know, my hands, because you're saying that, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. So like some self-care things that you can do are hand stretches. It's really good because when you're holding your hands like this the whole time, you're constantly like contracting, and the muscles that are on your arms and the ones that are going to your fingers, and your tendons are pulling on all these things. So when you do that, a good way to release it is to kind of do the opposite motion of what you're doing with your hands.
All right. I've never done these before, so I'm going to learn with you guys. All right.
The first one you kind of can do is just like kind of getting a little bit of a range of motion in your hand again, and you just like essentially put your thumb back and to every single finger, and you can kind of just keep on doing that, and what that will do is it'll just release some of the pressure here. The other things that you can do,
I feel like I'm doing a TikTok challenge.
Yeah, you might be. Releasing, because when you're holding your hand like this when you're knitting, you're holding it this way, so release that pressure of your hand right there and kind of just put your hand back like that. You don't have to go like crazy that it hurts, but just slightly release it.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely feel a bit of the stretch.
Yeah, and you're going in there. The other thing is when however you knit, so if you're a continental knitter and you tend to go like this when you're with your hand, try to do hand rotations the opposite way, and just kind of roll your wrist around a little bit, and just play with like how your arm is feeling. The other one that really works well for me, you can do this one the way that I normally do it is I'll have like a table or something like that, and I'll just like press like body weight onto it a little bit and really kind of open it.
So back from my martial arts days, we used to do it from the shoulder here, where you just grab the hand and then you slowly stretch your arm out like that.
And that all works.
Yeah. So if you don't have a table, right, so start from the shoulder, grab your fingers, and dip down.
And the other thing
that's an active stretch. So.
And what also can help is also actually just even doing like arm rounds as well. Only because like when you're sitting here and you're just doing this, you're holding also all these muscles in this area of your body is kind of getting tight as well. So you're gonna want to release that as well.
Cool. Well, thank you. And it is important to stretch your hands. As you know, there's a Facebook group that I'm in. Well, I mean, several Facebook knitting groups, but everyone is right now posting about how everyone's hands hurt from all the holiday knitting. So it is important to make sure that you take care of your hands so that you can knit for many, many years to come. Water break. So, and the last thing that I wanted to share with everyone today is about one of the yarns that we started carrying last fall, I think it was, maybe in the summer, and why I really love them. We became stockists for Woolfolk yarns, which are really beautiful, and I wanted to share a little bit about the story of that yarn because I feel like it's one that really deserves to be talked about more and that people aren't as familiar with. And so Woolfolk yarn was created by Kristen Ford. She is based in Oregon. She lives in an apple orchard, and she partnered with a company called Ovis 21 to buy all of their merino fleeces from South America. And so what Obus 21 is they are part of a worldwide organization called Savory that focuses on grassland restoration and sustainable farming practices. And so Obus 21 specifically is based in Patagonia, which is in Argentina. And they have a whole network of certified farms with sustainable practices throughout South America. And so they do really beautiful merino wool production. And so Kristen actually is the sole source of their fleeces, which they actually call Ultimate Merino. It's a super fine merino, and so all of the Obus 21 fleeces go to Kristen at Woolfolk and get spun into her line of yarns. And so it's a really beautiful yarn. It's really high quality, but also the efforts behind it are super sustainable and helping grassland restoration. So, it's the kind of company that I feel really good about partnering with. So, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. With all that said, let's show you some of their yarns. And so the yarn that first really made me fall in love with Woolfolk is called Sno, S-N-O. So Kristen, brings a lot of her Scandinavian heritage into her yarns. And that's because I cannot resist a good marl. And so this is a fingering weight, and it is spun, and obviously they're beautiful merino, but it's marled. That means that it's 2 plies, and 1 ply is one color and the other ply is the other color. And I am just a sucker for like a beautiful black and white marl. So check out this gorgeousness. And their palette is really classic and very Scandinavian inspired. But I just wanted to show you all of these beautiful marls. So this one's navy blue and white. How pretty is that?
It's very pretty.
This one is really subtle because it's a light gray with white. And then we get into some like earth tones. So this is like a warm brown with like a cream. Isn't this beautiful?
It is.
And just so that I don't take forever, here's a couple of the other sort of more earthy tones, right? Very lovely. This one's like a purple and like mauve-y, like dusty color, which is really stunning. Sorry, I'm just giving you all the yarns. And then there's a couple in like the blue family. So this one is like, looks like black and like almost navy. It's hard to describe, but it's really pretty. Look at that. And then this one is like a sea foam and like super light blue color. And so it's the kind of yarn where you can just knit something really simple, like you could do the Sockhead hat and the yarn's going to do all the work. Like you just want to knit really simple pieces with it and like let the yarn kind of do all the work. And Sno actually was not the original fingering weight. Their original fingering weight was called Tynd, which is again spun out of their beautiful merino fleeces with a nice pretty twist and beautiful sheen. And so Tynd is just a line of solid colors and fingering weight that will give you a really beautiful stitch definition. So it's just super squishy and lovely. And then the third yarn of theirs that we have is the TovDK line. And this is still, again, spun in their Ultimate Merino, but this one actually has 12 plies that are spun really tight, so it gives you a yarn that's super round, and it gives you like really beautiful stitch definition for like cables, or stitch texture. So if you look at that closely, you can see it actually has 12 plies per strand. So, yeah. So that's a little bit about Woolfolk, and it's a yarn that I'm really excited to have, and that I hope that you folks can be excited about as well, because it's not only beautiful, but grassland restoration in South America is something that is really important to me personally, since I'm from South America. So it's just a company that I feel really good about. Yeah. And you haven't worked with Woolfolk yet, so...
No. So I might have to use one of my gift cards I got and buy some today.
Yeah, so I'm going to also work on knitting up some projects in that yarn so that people can see how beautiful it is, because I think that it's hard to really express that, just in the skein. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry.
You checking it out?
I'm checking out yardage to see if I could do the
Oh,
Yeah.
The me cowl, the Anna cowl.
The U cowl.
Yay! You know what? You probably could in a couple skeins.
Yeah, that's what I was
Because
thinking.
they're 50 grand. Ooh, exciting.
Maybe scratch the pinkish purple gray one that I had gotten and do that one.
Sandbank. Yeah. That actually, it would actually look really, really good in the Woolfolk, so
Yeah.
that's a thought. Anyway, so one of the other questions that we got from our listeners, and I forgot to write down who asked. I think it might have been Michelle. Sorry if it wasn't, but they asked how we pick what patterns to work on next. Are we inspired by pattern first or yarn first? So how does that go for you?
Oh, for me, I tend to try to find the most difficult possible thing I can think of, or different techniques, and I tend to go right for that. In terms of yarn, sometimes I will buy the yarn before I get the project, and find the project. Generally, that's because I see it and I'm like, oh, I have to have that yarn. I can't not have it. And then I'll start searching for projects with the yarn, but I normally am a project first, yarn second.
Yeah, same. I definitely have a lot of yarn that I've bought just because I really wanted that yarn. And obviously, if I travel, I always buy a souvenir skein. I have to say that owning a yarn store does not prevent me from shopping at other yarn stores at all, because that's the beautiful thing. We all have different things, and I always want souvenirs from wherever I'm going. And so I will always buy a souvenir skein from wherever, but somehow I'm very rarely excited to then cast on that skein because I need to knit with that skein. So I am definitely more project driven than I am yarn driven. I'll be like, ooh, I want to wear that, you know?
I think actually all the ones that I got at Rhinebeck, like, just because I thought they were pretty, I still have no idea what I'm going to make with them. They're just kind of, I'll go into my room and I'll just like look at them and be like, oh, they're so pretty. And like, what am I going to do with you?
You know, it's funny because I literally just had that happen because I just found the bag that had my skeins in it when I was going through my stash, and I was like, oh yeah, I was so excited about these at the time, but I still haven't found the thing that moves me to want to use those specific skeins. And I still love them, but I need to wait for the pattern to, like, you know.
Do you ever want to part with your Lola Bean one? I mean,
no.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
Yes. So I managed to get, I think I even got 2 skeins maybe, or 1. I don't remember. Yeah, of Lola Bean's leaf voter suppression behind.
So pretty. You need to bring it next time to show.
It is really pretty. And I'm trying to remember who that was a collab with that Lola Bean did, but I will find proper information and pop it in the show notes. Yeah. Ooh. We're talking a whole bunch. So thank you everyone for joining us for another episode. Please keep sending us your questions because it's super, super fun for us. And if you're enjoying this, please like and subscribe and tell your friends. And thanks for being here.
Bye everyone.
Bye.